You ever have one of those nights where the rain seems to wash everything clean? Except it doesn't. It just makes the truth slick and harder to ignore. That's how this starts. A man in an expensive jacket following his son's taillights through neighborhoods he's always paid to ignore, thinking he's going to stop a mistake, and instead finding the thing that will break him, and if he's lucky, the thing that might put him back together. That's our hook. Quick, sharp, and it stings. Now, let me tell you the rest. Act 1. The window you never thought to look through. Richard Hale built Skyline's deals and a reputation the way some people build muscle, with focused repetition and a helpful amount of denial. Hale and Rowe Properties sits like an island on top of Millport glass and chrome and other people's futures. Portraits line the foyer. Generations of white smiles in identical frames, an order he never thought to question. His late wife Claire used to be the soft center of that display, and when she died in a rainstorm 5 years ago, Richard read the police report and put his grief in a neat box on a shelf and shut the lid. Meanwhile, there was life out of frame. Back when Richard was younger, hungry, arrogant, convinced his instincts were the only compass that mattered, he had an affair with a smart, proud woman named Rosa Bennett. Rosa worked late, studied harder, loved harder, and got the short end when the world made offers she couldn't refuse. When she told Richard she was pregnant, he didn't see a child. He saw a problem. A headline, a scandal, a compromise of everything he was trying to protect. So he wrote a check, slid it across a desk like a deal, and asked her to leave town. Rosa took the money because she had to. She left because saying no would have been a luxury she didn't have. And that choice shaped 3 lives for decades. Claire found out. Instead of turning that discovery into spite, she made it into Saturday mornings at a Warren Community Center 2 neighborhoods over, where she read to kids who owed the world nothing and trusted it anyway. She kept her visits secret. No social media, no announcements. Because this was love, not a PR stunt. For 15 years, she loved a little girl named Maya, like her own, showing up with the softest voice in a room that smelled of crayons and hope. Richard had no idea. Act 2. The day the window broke. Cut to our rainy night. Ethan, Richard's son, had been going to Harbor Light Community Center for months, and not because he wanted to impress his dad. He went because he belonged there in a way that couldn't be bought, because he loved the people inside, because something in him was stubborn enough to cross the invisible line his father respected. Richard sees Ethan cross that line, parks a block away, thinks he'll step in and clean things up. Paternal rescue curbside edition. But then he stands at a window and watches. What he sees in that fluorescent room is not what he expected. Maya, hair pulled back, is reading to a kid with a missing tooth. Her voice steady, her hands gentle. Claire's old scarf, someone's old photograph, a dog-eared snapshot of a woman Richard knows in his bones. The blood drains out of him as the truth tightens his chest. The little girl across the room is his daughter, the child he paid to disappear. The realization lands like a fist. He remembers his words from decades ago. Think about the company, the family. And now he hears them echoed back through time and grief. Ethan catches his father's face pressed to the cold glass. He walks out into the rain, opens the car door like it's a trap door, and calls Richard out. The conversation is sharp, not loud, but cutting. "Dad, you can't keep pretending mistakes have no victims. I only ever thought about what was best for the family," Richard says, and for the first time there's a crack in the armor. Ethan doesn't just accuse, he produces proof. A private lab DNA test, a percentage so high it doesn't need interpretation. "She's my sister," he says. That line drops weight. It rewires Richard's chest. At the same time, the world spins into another gear. Hale and Rowe has quietly filed an eviction notice for Harbor Light, claiming redevelopment, claiming profit. 200 families are given 90 days. The same boardrooms that taught Richard to measure life in square footage now speak of highest and best use like an incantation. The community erupts. Parents, elders, teenagers, all of them on live streams on the phones of people who suddenly care. Maya becomes a visible leader, not because she wants to be famous, but because someone has to stand in front of a bus and say no, and she does it like she's been doing it her whole life. That's when the antagonists reveal their teeth. Martin Cole, Hale and Rose iron-handed operations director, is smooth as a new veneer and twice as dangerous. He's got offshore accounts, phantom LLCs, and a habit of turning compassion into collateral. He treats displacement like a line item. When Richard starts to ask questions, actually ask them, not rote boardroom semantics. Martin smiles and says, "Sir, these projects are standard. Revenue projections, investor agreements, timelines. Emotions make for bad business." There's a soft threat in his voice that lands colder than any slap. Sometimes transitions have accidents. Richard's slow, awful arc picks up pace. He pries, literally into files old police reports Claire's locked desk drawer. He hires a private investigator, pulls email chains, and discovers that the accident that took Claire's life was tampered with. Brake lines cut, autopsy altered. His hands shake as he reads. He calls Margaret, Rosa's sister-in-law in this version. She confirms what he knows in the marrow: Claire died because she got too close. She was paying attention, and the kind of men who run the show punish attention. Now we've reached the cliff. Martin and an apparently friendly reporter named Alex Rivera, a man who offers help and gets close, lure Maya to a meeting in an abandoned warehouse, the kind of place you pull the curtains on and pretend you never saw. It's a trap. Martin steps out from the shadows with the calm speaker's cadence: "Ms. Bennett, you become a problem." He speaks like you would explain a math problem. Numbers, neat, impersonal. Alex's smile flickers. His recorder is a prop. Maya's phone is on. She's filming quietly. The power of the scene is in the little betrayals. The way a so-called ally tilts their head, the way a hand moves too slow toward a pocket. She runs the car, screams the brake pedal, sinks the highway, becomes a calculus of terror. Until Ethan, furious and reckless, rockets alongside, yells "jump," and the world becomes a blur of metal and rain, and a son willing to risk everything for his sister. They survive. It's messy and holy and awful. Richard runs into the ER like a man who's never been scared enough to truly change, and the fear is new and purifying. In the hospital, the three of them, Richard, Ethan, Maya, sit within the same breath for the first time. There's no ceremony, no tidy reconciliation. Maya says, flat and sharp, "Why did you pay her to leave?" Richard answers like the man he has to become, "Because I was afraid of what people would think of the life I built collapsing." She listens. She doesn't forgive in that moment. She hears him. It's not the same thing. Act 3. The reckoning that's messy and right. The evidence unfolds in the open like a slow-motion avalanche. Alex Rivera turns out to be two-faced. Martin's offshore transactions light up like a Christmas tree on a spreadsheet, and the medical records Claire kept in an envelope labeled "For Richard" are real. Richard goes on record in a city council hearing he never thought he would attend. He says aloud the things that used to live only in his guilt-addled dreams. He testifies against his own company and himself. The admission is a kind of sacrament. "I paid to hide a child because I was ashamed," he tells the room. "I helped build a system that thinks profit is worth people." It's not dramatic for drama's sake. It's brutal, honest, and public. The fallout is immediate. Arrests, indictments, a messy public discussion about legacy atonement and whether money can buy absolution. Harbor Light survives, funded by a foundation Richard establishes publicly. Not anonymously, not as a PR move, but because he's trying to hand back something he once stole. Maya keeps her distance. She says she'll watch for a year. Ethan is healing physically and morally. Rosa, who is no longer in the shadows, sits with her family and asks for no special favors, only truth. This is the part where you might expect a neat movie montage. Forgiveness picnics, a renovated center, and ribbons and soft focus smiles. That's not what happens. The victory is messy. Some people accept Richard's help warily, others scream that he's bought his way to redemption, and some families take the help with a guarded will-survive look. Margaret, who raised Maya alone, keeps asking what Richard is willing to lose. He is willing to lose money, standing, and possibly his company. He is not yet certain he can buy back trust. And that's the open ending, the part that makes people lean in and type below the video. Can a man who bought silence be forgiven if he makes the noise that clears the air? Is justice satisfied when the powerful fall, or is there a deeper work of repair that money alone can't do? The community gets Harbor Light back, but they also get headlines and a debate. Was this a redemption arc or a PR cleanup? People shout both answers, and both are true in messy measures. Closing. Why this matters to you. Here's the heart of it. This story is about the small ways we measure worth, the little decisions that add up to a life spent seeing people as liabilities or assets. Richard's change didn't happen because he read an op-ed or watched a documentary. It happened because he looked through a wet window and saw a little girl who was simultaneously his daughter and not his responsibility. And that sight refused to be abstract. It was personal, humiliating, and finally humanizing. So, I'll ask you, what do you do when you catch someone in a moment you don't like? Do you step in and change the narrative, or do you cover it up and move on? Have you ever been judged? And then seen through by someone who only had to look to understand? Drop it in the comments. Tell your story. Tell us what forgiveness looks like to you. Tell us if the powerful can ever be held accountable without the rest of us losing something real. If this grabbed you, hit subscribe, because these are the stories that make the world messy and slowly, maybe better. Share it with someone who needs to hear that change isn't always tidy, but it's always worth trying.